Today's topic has to do with adding and subtracting fractions. The essential question is, why do you need to find a common denominator to add or subtract fractions? So right here we have 1/3 plus 2/4. You'll see that they have different denominators. Just to kind of break this down a little bit, notice how this piece right here, these pieces right here are larger than these pieces right here. Okay? To look at them in a different way, right here, you'll see that they are different sized pieces. The 1/3 is larger than the 1/4. Okay? So when you have that situation, it makes it a little bit more challenging to add those different size pieces. And since those size pieces are not the same size within the two fractions, you need to transform each fraction so that they have the same size pieces. To do this, you need to find a common denominator and set up equivalent fractions to the originals. So you got to think of a common denominator for 1/3 and 2/4. Since 3 and 4 both go into 12, you can make that the new denominator. Okay, so 1/3, I want to convert 1/3 so that's out of 12ths. I want to convert 2/4 so that it is out of 12ths. I have 12 pieces. So real quick, let's go ahead with this top display. Let's go ahead and represent 1/3. Okay, there's 3 pieces right there. 1/3 would look like this. So when we cut this into 12 pieces instead, I want it to be the exact same size as the 1/3. And to do that, it would be 4/12. 4/12 is equal to 1/3. Here's one way that you can do that without a picture. You've got to ask yourself, how many times does 3 fit into 12? Well, it fits into it 4 times. Okay, so when I go 3 times 4, I get 12. So if you do that to the denominator, you must also do that to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. 4/12 is the exact same size as 1/3. Okay? And you'll see that over here. There's 4/12 right there. It's the exact same size as 1/3. Now we got to do that to the other fraction also. Let's go ahead and represent that with its picture, 2/4. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4/4 right there, but we only want to color in 2/4 of it to represent that fraction. And since we want to cut it into 8 pieces, just like we did with this one, because we want the same size pieces, I cut that into 12, and we want them to be the exact same size. Okay, and you'll notice that this would be 6/12. And if you're curious how we got that, we would go 4 multiplied by 3 to get the 12, and we would need to go 2 multiplied by the 3 to get the 6. So 2/4 is equivalent to 6/12. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. Here is 1/4. 1/4 is equal to 3/12. Here is well, as I pick it up, here's another 4th that's equal to 3/12. And then we have 1/3, which is equal to 4/12. So now you see how they are the same size pieces, and it makes it so much easier to add for us. And when I look at this, 1/3 plus 2/4, or I could also say 4/12 plus 6/12 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10/12. You'll also see it right here with the picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10/12. Because now that they're the same size pieces, you can add them now. I also want you to remember to get in the habit of simplifying in this. So to simplify this, you got to think of a number that goes into both 10 and 12, and I can think of the number 2. So I'm going to simplify it. 10/12 is also equal to 5/6. Okay? Without a calculator, I want you to add 1/3 plus 2/4. You don't have to draw a model, but I want to know what the answer is. Show your work. Now on the back page, you do not have to draw a picture to represent each of these, but I do want you to practice adding and subtracting fractions. The first problem says 2/3 plus 4/5. Remember, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you need to come up with a common denominator so that they are the same size pieces, okay? So one fast way to do that is just to go 5 times 3. Well, 5 times 3 is 15, so I know that both of those denominators, they go into 15. I put an equal sign there because I'm going to convert 2/3 into an equivalent fraction made out of 15 pieces instead of just 3 pieces. 3 times 5 is 15, so the numerator times 5 is 10. So 2/3 is equal to 10/15. If I simplify 10/15, it would equal 2/3. They are equal to each other. They're the same size. They're interchangeable, okay? 4/5 is the same as 12/15. Now we have the same size pieces, and now it's easier to add. 10 plus 12 is 22. 22/15 is the answer to 10/15 plus 12/15. Or if you add 2/3 plus 4/5, the answer is 22/15. You can also convert that into a mixed number. 15 fits into 22 one whole time. Keep that same denominator, and there would be 7 left over. Okay, so 22/15 is the same size as 1 and 7/15. Number 2, please make sure you notice that you're subtracting, okay? And same exact process, I notice that those are different denominators, so I want to make them the same size pieces. So I'm going to make the denominator 36. 4 times 9 is 36, so the numerator, which is 1 times 9, is 9. 9 times 4 is 36, so 5 times 4 is 20. And remember, we're subtracting. So 9/36 minus 20/36 is going to give you negative 11/36. And that doesn't simplify. Okay, so that's the answer right there. Number 3 says 7/8 minus 9/10. You should pause the video so that you can try this one on your own. A common denominator that you can use 40, you can use 80, you can use 800. I think many of you might have, when you first looked at this, you might have just thought of 80. So that's what I'm going to use. But you'll notice if you use 40 or any of the other ones, when you simplify it all the way down, you'll get the exact same answer. So multiply numerator and denominator by 10 for that 7/8 one, and you would get 70/80. Multiply the numerator and denominator by 8 for 9/10, and you would get 72/80. Remember, we're subtracting. So 70/80 minus 72/80 is negative 2/80. And we can simplify that. I'm going to divide the numerator and denominator by 2, and that would leave me negative 1, because negative 2 divided by positive 2 is a negative, so negative 1/40. All right, that next problem is 4/5 plus 1/10. A common denominator for this, you could say 50, you could say 20, you could say 40. There's a whole bunch of common denominators that you can think of. Something that might make it easier on you is try to find the least, the smallest number that they both go into, because then at the very end you don't have to do a bunch of simplifying. So when I look at this, I'm like, oh, they both go into 10. So I'm going to rewrite it underneath. And 5 times 2 gets 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Well, this one, it's already out of 10, so I can just keep that. Okay? So now that I have common denominators, which are same size pieces, I can add straight across. 8 plus 1 is 9. And then keep it the same denominator, you get 9/10. So for number 5, you're going to see that they're mixed numbers. And when you do that, it's the same exact process. You want to make sure they have the common denominator. And I see right here, these have a common denominator already. So that makes it much easier for me because they're the same size pieces. So 2/3 minus 1/3 is 1/3. And then 14 minus 1 is 13. So that's 13 1/3.
The next one says 12 3/4 minus 1 1/12. And when I'm looking at this, I see that these are unlike denominators within those fractions, so I need to find a common denominator. Common denominators that you could possibly use would be like 12, 24, 48. Any of those will work, and at the very end, just remember to simplify that fraction. Normally, I would probably use 12 as the common denominator because that's the least common multiple for it, but I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use 24 just to show you that we're still going to get the same exact answer. So I got to modify these fractions to make them have a denominator of 24. So I'll write that right there. So I'm going to keep that 12. So 4 times what number gives you 24? Be 4 times 6, okay, to get the 24. So therefore we have to do the same thing to the numerator and multiply it by 6 as well. So 3 times 6 is 18. So 12 and 18 24ths is the exact same thing as 12 and 3/4 because 18 24ths simplifies to 3/4. All right, now let's go ahead and let's keep that one whole right there. And again, we want to have the denominator of 24. So you got to think to yourself, 12 times what number gives you 24? And that's 2. So I'm going to multiply also the numerator by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So you should hopefully know that 1 and 2 24ths is equal to 1 and 1/12 because this fraction right here simplifies to this fraction. Therefore, that these are equivalent. Okay, now that I have the common denominator, now I'm able to go ahead and subtract. So 12 and 18 24ths minus 1 and 2 24ths is equal to, let's see, 12 minus 1 is 11. And then 18 24ths minus 2 24ths is 16 24ths, which is perfectly acceptable. However, I do want you to get in the habit of simplifying any fractions if possible. So let's think. I know it's going to still be an 11, but what does 16 24ths simplify to all the way down? I'm going to go ahead and divide it by, let's see, 8 goes into both. So 16 divided by 8 is 2. Dividing that by 8, I'm going to get 2. And then 24 divided by 8, it gives me 3. So we get 11 2/3 as our answer.
Number 7. Oh, it's really nice right here. We have common denominators already. So I can just go 4/5 plus 1/5. That is 5/5. 15 plus 1 is 16. So 16 and 5/5. 5/5 is 1 whole, so I can add that 1 whole to that 16 and get 17 as my answer. Okay, the next problem says 6 1/2 plus 8 2/14. I'm noticing that they don't have the same common denominator. So a number that both 2 and 14 go into, I could say 28, but 14's smaller, the 28, and at the very end I won't have to simplify so much. So I'm going to go ahead and use 14, just to save myself some time. Okay, 2 times 7 is 14, so 1 times 7 is 7. So 7/14 is the same as 1/2, and then keep that whole number right there, plus, this is already out of 14, so I can just keep that exactly the same, okay? So 7 plus 2, 7, 8, 9, that's 9 9/14, and then 6 plus 8 is 14, okay? And that fraction doesn't simplify any further, so that right there is my answer. All right, have a good day.